So I'm just a huge fan, always have been, as you know, but I try to separate my sort of cheerleader hat and my Arnold hat and all of that from being a practical consumer. And I'd be honest with you, I mean, in a small group like this, and you guys are all working on it, many of you have invented and invested in this future, I would tell you honestly, if I could find, hey, here's the one rub, here's the real problem. And frankly, there isn't one. And when you think about all of the benefits, you drive this thing proudly. And I also can't tell you what a great feeling it is when you're driving down a street or you're on a busy freeway and people honk at you and they go, yeah! And people will roll down the window and say, is that really hydrogen? Where do I get those? When are they coming out? And I always say, well, go to your nearest Honda dealer. They're all coming out in May. You can all get one. So pressure's on you guys. But having a great time, and I encourage you to sign up, look, be part of this in any way that you can. And that gets me to the second of the three comments I wanted to make today. I think most of you know that after leaving the Schwarzenegger administration about 15, 16 months ago, the reason I left was because Arnold, and actually this was cooked up at the 2006 Western Governors Association meeting with Arnold, with Janet Napolitano of Arizona, and Christine Gregoire of Washington. We were sitting in a room talking about greenhouse gas policy and climate change policy, and at that time California we had set our targets, we had done our plan, but we were still in the process of negotiating AB 32. Arizona was in the process of doing a plan, a stakeholder outreach and plan, and Washington the same. Neither one of them was on quite the same timeline we were, but we were saying, look, what does happen if just a couple of our states restrict carbon in some way or put a price on it? There will be businesses that will leave our state. This will have an economic impact on us if we're the only ones doing this. And we really do need to figure out how to get more states into this. And then obviously on top of that, the environmental benefits. I mean, since our federal government is not acting, we really do need to get the states to do what we, the leadership states, are doing. So at that meeting, we cooked up this idea that I would go out on behalf of all these governors, work from a nonpartisan, nonprofit think tank, the New America Foundation, as it turns out, and try to Johnny Appleseed the kind of California or other state climate plan concepts to other states and to try to get more of them to do as we had done and create a de facto national climate plan, response by the United States in effect, knowing that our federal government would not take action before there's a new president and probably a new Congress in the White House in 2009. So I went out starting about September of last year of 2006, so now it's been about 16 months. And at the time I started this work, there were 3 states in the nation that had set targets for reducing greenhouse gases and had some kind of a comprehensive plan comparable to what they would do if they were countries under the Kyoto Accord. And just 3. And we had, of course, in the Northeast, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, the RGGI, which is, of course, the states that are putting a cap on emissions from just the power generating sector, and they were going to allow trading, much like the sulfur dioxide trading or the European carbon trading system, as long as collectively the power plants were reducing. But just power plants. So that was our country's entire response to climate change 15 months ago. Well, here's the astonishing news that I want to tell you that directly relates to you. 15 months later, there are now 27 states that have greenhouse gas reduction targets and comprehensive, credible plans to achieve those targets that are the equivalent of what they would do if they were separate countries under Kyoto. 6 of them have put those plans into law, which is an important step when you think about whether or not it'll really have teeth. And this year, 12 more, at least 12 more will do so. So that by the time there's a new president in the White House where we have a federal administration that will likely take this issue more seriously on the federal level, the majority of the U.S. population will already live in a state that has done what it would do under the Kyoto Accord, and frankly, more than that. Because while the world has come together in Bali recently to start the discussions about what happens when the Kyoto Accord expires in 2012 for what will then be what's called the second commitment period by these countries, the United States, of course, not being part of the first commitment period, the only industrialized nation not to be now that Australia has joined. As they sit around the tables talking about what they might do in that second commitment period, the United States has already defined it, because a majority of the U.S. population already lives in a state that has climate plans that go out to the year 2050 with 60 to 80% reductions over current greenhouse gas emission levels by 2050. That is already leapfrogging Kyoto and the UN and will define the second commitment period. So as much as a laggard as we've been, thanks to the state effort, there will be, the state's effort, there will be, I think, a leapfrogging and a definition of what comes next by the United States. Even more important than these 27 states, and by the way, 39 states have joined the voluntary national climate registry, where these states are requiring their emitters to measure and record and report their emissions, which is obviously a first step toward regulating them. So 27 have done the plans, but 39 are on the approach to doing it, which gives you a sense of where the rest of the U.S. Is moving. But even more important than that, these states have now joined one of 3 regional greenhouse gas efforts. The RGGI I mentioned in the Northeast, which is starting in the beginning of 2009 to trade in those credits and cap the emissions plants, is also working on how to expand it to other industrialized sectors. California led the effort along with Washington and Arizona, as I mentioned, also as a result of that Western Governors meeting back in 2006, in creating what's called the Western Climate Initiative, the WCI, which is a RGGI on steroids. Of course, it's appropriate. We've got Arnold. Hey, listen, he admitted it. Thank you. The WCI will cover all industrial sectors, and they're starting with electricity. They just actually had the meeting of their electricity subcommittee. It's going very well. They'll be reporting out in about March to the public as to how that's going. Some of you may be working on that. Others may be working on other industrialized sectors, but also by 2009, actually by August of this year, the entire plan will be out for public comment. By 2009, just like the northeastern states, we will begin to cap and allow trading, but we'll have caps and reductions from our industrialized sectors in 6 western states and 2 Canadian provinces. We're adding 2 Mexican states, and I was just down in New Zealand and Australia. They will be joining the Western Climate Initiative with us. And about 2 months ago, we helped to create and launch the Midwestern Governors Climate Initiative, which is 8 Midwestern states and a Canadian province that will be doing the same thing, also multi-sector, probably lagging about a year from RGGI and from the WCI. We're working with Florida and some other southern states. You'll hear some exciting announcements about trading and a similar group later this year. So again, by the time a new president is in the White House, not only will a majority of the states be capping and regulating greenhouse gas emissions, they will be part of one of these regional trading networks that will be harnessing the market forces to allow trading of carbon credits as a way of reducing the overall emissions.